Hey, it's Monk Chips, and I want to talk to you about Google I/O because Google I/O this year was kind of really interesting. Mainly because it was about accessibility, accessibility, accessibility. That's Monk Chips in 3 minutes. So here's the thing, you're watching a keynote, it's Google I/O, you know it's going to be slick. They want to show off all of the things that you can do with Google Assistant. And from my perspective, I think it's interesting because, I thought the conversational user interfaces were going to take off much more rapidly than they have. At some point they will. We'll get that rapid technology S-curve that you tend to get, that saturation, goes from nothing, 0 to 60 in no time. The demos were really impressive. And, one of the points they made was you don't need to say, okay, Google, I think that's fine. But the key thing is the amount of context in understanding a conversation. When you're using the phone and you're able to very simply say, look, can you please send a photograph of my recent holiday to my friend, call my mom, all of that sort of good stuff. That stuff's compelling, but for me, it was the accessibility angles that really played and hit home. I ran a conference earlier in the year, Monkey Gras, and we focused on accessibility, and that was a real eye-opener. A wonderful guy called Ben Fletcher works at the Financial Times. He pointed out that for him, Uber is a lifesaver. He's deaf and blind. It's easy to say that Uber has too many ethical issues and we shouldn't trust it, maybe shouldn't use it. From Ben's perspective, he can get from A to B. He doesn't have to struggle in talking to the cabbie. And for me, it was like an eye-opening moment. We also had other people that were visually, that were hearing impaired, and they're saying that from Facebook, doing the transcription of video on Facebook was just super helpful. And so for me, I was kind of rethinking this. Google's keynote was all about that. So they had an Indian mother who had 3 kids. They were at school. She wanted to, really engage with their education, but she couldn't help them with their homework. Okay, Google couldn't give her that, but the fact that she could get a camera, take a picture of their school report and have it read to her is amazing. Medicines, safety, stuff like that. For people that can't read, that is a genuine form of accessibility. But they had a guy with ALS, and basically he was able to watch sport with his friends and with technology, be able to engage in some of the cheering and those sorts of activities. Another thing that I thought was really striking was Google is building a large data set of people that have speech impediments. Now, if you think about it, it's easy for me to say, oh, hey, this speech recognition isn't that good. What about someone that's had a stroke or is deaf or hearing impaired and has other issues? Google's really focusing on building this data set so that they can be understood by the computer. And I think, it's easy for us to criticize the web leviathans. It's easy to say, oh, surveillance capitalism, things like that. But at the end of the day, accessibility really matters. And if Google's creating better experiences that create accessibility for people that really need it, then hey, that's something I'm all about. I'd love to know what you think. Comment, subscribe, let me know. That's Monk Chips in 3 minutes.